Hello everyone, how are you doing today? I'm doing well myself. Um, Gonna go ahead and talk about how the day went, so let's get started. All right, so it all started at around, I woke up at 10 and I used the restroom, then I went back to sleep. Oh, took some water with me too, and then I went back to sleep. And I remember I had some vivid dreams, but I don't remember what happened in those dreams. So, oh well on that. I eventually did wake up again at 12, and I was kind of just laying in my bed trying to figure out what am I going to do today. So, I got out of my bed and I was thinking to myself, what should I do? So, I saw my black journal right here, and I was like, oh, let me try writing in this and see if I could come up with anything. So on Monday 27th, 2026 at 12:16 p.m., I have the day off today. What shall I do? I slept through half of it already. So here's the available hours. 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and 11 p.m. It's 12:58 a.m. right now, by the way. That's 11 hours available to do your thing. So what are you going to do? Full body stretch for 10 minutes. I ended up doing that one. Go to PetSmart to get crickets for Cheeto, my sister's spider, and I did do that with her today. Study SpongeBob's storyboard Dying for Pie for 1 hour. I did not do that today, I'm afraid to admit. And then read The Illusion of Life for 1 hour. I also did not do that today, which is that book on my top shelf over there. Very sad. And then crush and put away cans and bottles, which I did do today. So these are all the things I can think of for right now. So if I can complete these 5 objectives, I should have a satisfying day off. Off I go. So I did complete 3 of them. So my day's satisfaction is, I'd say a 3 out of 10. Or sorry, not 3 out of 10. A 3 out of 5. So, hey, at least some of it was done, you know? Little victories are better than no victories. So, after I was done making that list, I greeted my sister, and yeah, I told her about my list and what I was thinking about doing, and she was like, all right, cool. Yeah, later today, we'll definitely do the whole going to the store to pick up crickets for Cheeto. I was like, great. So after we did that, we were looking at the insect boxes we had. One was for the mantis, which my sister calls Monty Mantis, and the other was for the spider tarantula Cheeto. And we were just looking at them and greeting them with little hellos and everything. And my sister actually did put this what do you call that? Some greenery in the mantis's box, because she read online that if the mantis is not constantly exposed to greenery, it starts to turn a more sandy color for its skins instead of its deep green color that mantises are so famous for. It was currently a sandy looking color, so she put that leaf in and he seemed to be happy about it. And she even put a little jumping spider in there for the mantis too. And yeah, he kind of slowly crawled up, and we were looking at Cheeto while he was slowly planning his attack on the jumping spider. The mantis was not the and the jumping tiny spider, not the big tarantula spider. So yeah, we were just looking at how Cheeto was doing, and then we heard and we looked around, and yeah, the mantis was eating the jumping spider. It was pretty cool. And then after that, I remember I decided to listen to a new podcast from Digital Foundry, the Digital Direct. In this, it was a panel that was composed of Richard Ledbetter, John Lennerman, and Tom Morgan. And they were talking about a range of different things, from the Halo Master, the Halo campaign evolved problem, where you need to have like a whitelisted account for both your Microsoft account, and if you're on PlayStation 5, you also need to have that console whitelisted on Microsoft servers as well as PC. So they basically added an extra layer where I guess they wanted like a way of tracking users, so they knew like how like their player retention, and put those numbers on a graph for investors and market analysis to look at and be like, ooh, people are looking at this. That means we're going to make profit. And basically, make forcing users to jump through a bunch of hoops just to, play the game, which sucks, but that's what they did. And they were basically complaining about how that made it really difficult to do things like split screenplay if you're on two separate consoles. Like if you're just playing on one console, then it's a bit of a pain, but it's doable. But if you're a member of the Digital Foundry team and you want to, cover each individual game, but you only have one account across those games, and it's a real pain in the bahunkus to like get it all to work. So they were, voicing their quarrels about that. And then after that, they were talking about I skipped around on a few things, but I remember they were talking about how Valve announced that the RAM crisis is only going to get worse, and it's going to force things like Steam Deck and the Steam Machine to be even more unaffordable. So it's going to cause people who would have been interested in gaming to question whether it's even a good idea to continue now. So unless you're a huge fan and treat gaming as like a luxury hobby, and you are really well off and make quite a bit of money, gaming is becoming more and more unaffordable. Although John Lennerman did state that if you are like wanting to get your family into gaming, like they're interested, but you don't really have the funds for all the new stuff, then they're usually selling like used PS4s and Nintendo Switches on the used marketplace for like between $100 to $200, and stacks of used games for like cheap prices as well. So especially PS4 games. So that's a good way to go about it if you want to get into gaming, but you don't want to pay an arm and a leg these days. So yeah, that's a shame. And this would be around the time when they'd split the prices of these new consoles, but because of the ongoing RAM shortage and crisis due to AI data centers eating up all the RAM and buying up 20% of the world's, RAM, now it's strained manufacturing on other electronic goods, which means that things ain't looking too hot for people who are into gaming as a hobby currently, which sucks. And then after that, they were talking about like retrospective on their platform, and like how they were talking about, ooh, this was when the Xbox One S was announced. Like they were looking 10 years back. There's like a website made by someone who was a fan of Digital Foundry and made like anniversaries for all the old stuff they talked about. It was pretty weirdly nostalgic hearing them talk about stuff that like I was there for. Like I got into Digital Foundry around the time that Mighty Number 9 released. That was the first video of Digital Foundry I ever watched. The Mighty Number 9 digital video analysis from John Letterman on the Wii U. Is super nostalgic to me now, looking back on it. And it's got sassy John Letterman in it. But it's really trippy seeing that, and like, I'm still with them 10 years later, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, I guess I really trust their opinion when it comes to talking about video games and video game technology. Yeah, I'm really glad I was sticking with them. Like, before Digital Foundry, I used to be into just gaming journalism and just review scores and stuff like that. And then when I discovered Digital Foundry, I stopped caring about review scores and was more into the, technological analysis of games and does it run good or does it not run good? Like that's like I started to kind of lose sight of the whole nerdum of like just gaming as this broad, audience topic and started focusing more on it as this weird niche kind of this is a you know technology that's progressing topic, if that makes sense. So my mindset kind of shifted, and it was all thanks to Digital Foundry about that. Before then, I was into stuff like watching IGN reviews, and there was this old show on YouTube called Classic Game Room. I used to watch all the time for new releases. Um, it was it was a unique period for me experiencing gaming journalism. Um, and now it's completely shifted. I never really watch any video game reviews unless it's for like a major release, like Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think I watch, and the only reviews I watch now these days are usually from you know a really big established channel like independent channel like I think a good one is Video Game Donkey. That's really the only major one. Like sometimes I dabble in more niche channels, but a lot of the channels that did really good video essays that I watched, like there was one talking about the what was it called again? Like an overview of a Oddworld, the original Oddworld, and then Oddworld New and Tasty. It was from this guy who had I think he was Irish, like a young Irishman who compared and contrasted those two versions of that one game. I'm forgetting his name, but man, I really enjoyed that video. That's the reason why I liked gaming so much. Like people who were just super passionate. It felt like a kind of niche that was untouchable for people who were true nerds of that kind of thing, where like because it required a certain like person to be invested in this medium, it could be untouched by major corporations and people like trying to manipulate groups of people to squeeze as much profit out of this market as possible. But lo and behold, we're in the year of our Lord 2026, and now PlayStation is going all digital, and presumably the Xbox, meaning the whole appeal of console gaming is pretty much over now. Where you could freely own your media and buy, sell, or exchange, and now you're forced to be on a closed-off online ecosystem that dynamically increases its pricing based on how often you spend on the storefront. Just absolutely disgusting corporate behavior that, makes me think of, oh man, remember when it felt like these companies actually seemed to care about their customers? Like with Sony trolling Microsoft with the whole, "Ooh, we can share games. What a concept. And you don't need a DRM tied console either." Man, I kind of miss those days. It made me feel good to own a PlayStation. Now when I look at my PS5, I feel shame and regret and wish I spent that money that I bought that PS5 on a good PC instead. Well, there you go. Anywho, moving along. Yeah, as I was watching that whole Digital Foundry video, I was eating cereal, the honeycomb cereal. Like I had like 3 bowls with a cup of coffee, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was really tasty. And then afterwards, my sister left, and then I decided I would spend that time crushing cans and putting them away in paper bags, and then eventually throw those crushed cans and plastic bottles way outside in the recycling. organized so I wouldn't have to split through them when the time came to bring them in. So I did that, and in the middle of my can crushing, I needed to use the restroom. Eventually, my mom arrived. I greeted her. She said she brought a cake and ice cream and bologna meat and turkey meat. And so I was like, ooh. She asked me if I wanted a sandwich and what meat. I said, bologna sounds pretty good. Haven't had that in a while. So she made that. Funnily enough, she called me earlier when I was with my sister on the phone. We were looking at the spider and the mantis, and she was asking about like meats. And then I wanted to say bologna, but I said turkey because I was like, oh, that's probably healthier for me anyways. And then she ended up getting bologna instead. So it's like we had like a mind connection thing going there. Pretty cool. So we had bologna sandwiches with mustard, mayonnaise, and lettuce. And after we had that, I remember we had a piece of cake with, we finished the Tillamook ice cream. And she also got ice cream, great value vanilla ice cream from Walmart. So we had that. We had the two, and we split them. And yeah, and comparing the Tillamook to the Walmart Great Value was quite an experience. The vanilla Tillamook tasted very pure, very light, very delicate, very subtle, both in its sweet profile and its flavor profile, and very smooth. But the Walmart one, it texture-wise, I'd say it was fairly similar to the Tillamook one. Taste and flavor-wise, I did not like it. I thought that the vanilla flavoring was extremely artificial tasting and chemically tasting, and I felt like it was way too sweet, in my opinion, like really sweet. Not a fan of that one. I was never a fan of the Great Value ice creams by Walmart. I always thought they just tasted really like artificial, and yeah, I'd be fine just spending just a little bit more on the good stuff. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's not good for you anyways, and you shouldn't be eating all the time, and you only should have it once in a while as a special little treat. You might as well go all the way with like a quality ice cream. I mean, I just think that makes sense. Anyways, after we had that, and my mom was showing me this video she was watching of this lady being interviewed on a Christian podcast, talking about her experiences working at SNL. Our family friend came in, and we greeted her, and we were like, "How you doing?" She was doing good, and yeah, we just had this kind of experience, communal experience, meeting, talking to each other about how we were doing and what our days were like and what our plans were and all that. And then I stated that I wanted to do a meditation tape today. So mom was like, all right. So I went into my room and I pre-recorded a video of me before the tape. I did the meditation with the tape, and then I recorded my experience after the tape experience. And you can find that on this channel under this video that I've just released. So yeah, that's it was an interesting experience. I'm not gonna say I like opened a portal in my mind or anything, but it was a good next step towards more interesting, more deep meditative experience. I get more into detail in the video, so I'll just direct you to watch that if you're interested. So yeah, after I did that whole experience and edited it a bit, used the restroom, I told my sister, all right, it's time to go. So we went in my car, we drove off, we arrived at the PetSmart, and we got the crickets, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I was gonna talk to my middle sister and say the idea about going to see the Odyssey. And so we contacted her, telling her our idea to see it at 70 millimeter IMAX screening. and she said she was absolutely up for it. The funny thing was, she was going to watch the movie tonight, but we called her right in the nick of time when she was considering it, and told her we're planning on seeing it on the 11th of August, and she agreed. So we're going to be watching that movie. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. Excited, really excited. So after that experience, I remember we drove back home, and when we arrived home, we talked about what theater we were going to go to, and what we were going to do when we got there, and all that stuff. And we locked in our tickets, and we're ready. So yeah, really looking forward to it. It's going to be at one of the world's most famous theaters ever, the TCL Chinese Theater. So it's going to be very exciting to see that film. Very interested to see how it ends up looking on the big screen. And then, after we made plans, we watched an episode of Fallout. And in this episode, it was really interesting. It was, as we were watching it, our family friend gave me some chips, and I got a Arizona iced tea. And we were watching this movie, or sorry, not movie, this episode. It was about like the ghoul guy. He was close to turning into a ghoul, the noseless like cowboy dude. And yeah, he was just talking about his experience. Um, hmm. He was talking about his experience in a flashback of, well, he was confronting his wife about being part of this. Okay. I'm like, what's that sound? And it sounds like a bowl like scratching on the floor. And then I remembered, oh yeah, there's cat food on that bowl, and I think there's like a cat or maybe even another animal eating off that bowl right now. So that's what was causing me to go, what's going on out there? Okay, so anyways, the episode is the cowboy ghoul. His name's Cooper. He has flashbacks of him confronting his wife about, being part of this corrupted system that essentially is trying to capitalize off of nuking locations on the planet Earth and then creating designated like vault areas to squeeze as much money out of people as possible. And for like the few rich elite. And then in the present time, he's like stuck on this like stake that he's trying to get out of, so he can get his vial and keep from turning into a full-blown ghoul. But he ends up not being able to do that. But then there's this like big kind of hulking mutant thing that breaks him free and takes him with him, and he like heals him with like a uranium like rock somehow. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but he uses that, and he tells him about like how like ghouls and my kind aren't seen as good around here, so what if we join forces and take them out? And like the ghoul's not really into that, so he's like, no. And so the mutant just kind of drags him and drops him off at some location. Then we have the Maximus character and his friend who became a ghoul, who travel around the desert, and eventually they find an outpost area. Apparently Maximus has this like vial, and he finds the Cooper ghoul looking at him, and he's like, oh no. And the ghoul's like, oh no. And then his ghoul friend is like, hey, how you doing? And that's like their plot line. And then after that, there's another underground vault line plot line where there's this guy who's trying to have a sort of club, but there's like a bunch of salty snacks in the club, and like there's this whole sequence where he's like playing the piano, and he imagined he's playing this grand piano song in his head, and like the aspect ratio changes to 4:3, and like everyone's dancing and having a great time. But then we cut to like the lady who runs the place like walking to the club location, and she's gonna confront him, and he's like, "Whoa, wait, we were all having a good time," and then everyone's like, "Yeah," and then like, "I don't want to hear about what you're trying to tell me." And then he grabs a piece of jello and just throws it in his face, and they were like, "Oh, that's funny." Um, and then after that, we cut to the lady, the main character lady's story, where um, is she's awoken in a location set up by her father, and sees these two like Roman soldiers, and she's got to knock them out, but then they all greet her all friendly like. She's confused, and when she goes into this location, there's a bunch of people working in this area, and they're all working in perfect unison, perfect harmony. Everyone's getting along just fine, but it's sort of in a way that feels unnatural and uncanny, like they're either mind controlled or hypnotized or something. And then she eventually is greeted by her father, and her father's trying to like be like all fatherly, be like, "Oh, hello, it's me. You remember that book you read? Oh, do you remember the parts you liked, didn't like?" And then she's like about to like puts a knife up to him and is like, "You're coming with me. You're under arrest. We're gonna bring you in for inspection." And he's like, "Well, okay." And he decides to put you know chains on his hands and walks with her out. And right before they do that, she notices, "Okay, set them free." And they was like, "We don't want to be set free." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to open all the doors in this area and you guys can walk out." And they're like, "Well, we're perfectly happy here." And then she was like, "Well," and I don't know what to say. And then, like, suddenly, two Roman soldiers who haven't been brainwashed with the chip in them yet are being brought into the area, and they're like really don't like each other, and they're about to fight. And like before they're about to fight, like the one of the mind controlled guys is like, "Should I press the button to activate their friendly mode?" And the guy's like, "Well, what does my daughter think?" And the daughter's like, "No, set them free." But then they're set free and they start trying to kill each other. And so she's like, "Oh my gosh, oh, they're gonna kill each other. Press the red button." And so they're like, "Okay," or she presses the red button actually, and then they turn normal. And they're like, well, not normal, but friendly. And then they get along. And she's like, "What the heck?" And that's pretty much the episode. Lots of narrative threads, lots of stuff to follow through, but it all adds up to a really engaging and unique experience that, yeah, I would recommend if you like an extended, intertwined stories that all coalesce into one big kind of like event or finale. Really a lot of fun, I would say. Yeah. And so after watching that, I was like, okay, I gotta go, guys. So I took my vitamins, I brushed my teeth, I finished editing that Robert Monroe Gateway tape, and then I posted that on my YouTube channel. I checkmarked everything I did and X marked everything I didn't do with a little frowny face on my little notebook right there. And then I exported the video that I edited. I then hung out with my mom for a while before she went to bed. And then I decided to make this video right here that I'm going to publish. And then when I release it, I'm going to go to sleep. So thank you for watching. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.